Some machines weren't just expensive to build, they were financial disasters. Engineers poured everything into them. New engines, new systems, radical designs. On paper, they promised to dominate agriculture. In reality, they drained budgets, scared buyers, and crushed the companies that created them. These machines worked. They were powerful. They were revolutionary. But each one carried a price so brutal, it sank its own maker. Today, we reveal 10 farm machines that didn't just fail. They bankrupted their own companies. Number 1. Massey Ferguson. MF 860-865 Combine Series. In the late 1970s, Massey Ferguson believed it could reclaim dominance in the combine market. The answer was a new generation of large, high-capacity harvesters built in Brantford, Ontario. The MF 860 and MF 865 were designed to compete head-to-head with John Deere and International Harvester's biggest machines. They were powerful, modern, and complex, representing a massive leap forward from Massey's older combine designs. But building them required far more than engineering talent. Massey invested enormous sums into retooling the Brantford plant, expanding production lines, and training workers to assemble these advanced machines. The company expected high-volume sales across North America and overseas. These combines were not meant to be niche products. They were meant to carry the entire company's future. Then the farm economy collapsed. By the early 1980s, grain prices fell sharply. Farmers delayed purchases. Credit tightened. Dealers were stuck with unsold machines. The MF 860 and 865, large and expensive, were exactly the kind of equipment farmers stopped buying first. Each unit sitting on a lot represented tens of thousands of dollars tied up in inventory. Massey's balance sheet was already strained from years of acquisitions and global expansion. The combine program magnified every weakness. The Brantford plant burned cash even when machines were not selling. Parts inventories grew. Warranty and support costs mounted. The combines themselves were not bad machines, but they required a healthy market to survive. Instead, Massey hemorrhaged money. Losses reached hundreds of millions of dollars. By 1987, the combine business was spun off as Massey Combines Corporation. Within a year, that company entered bankruptcy. Brantford's combine lines went silent. The MF 860 and 865 did not fail mechanically. They failed economically. They became symbols of a company betting everything on growth that never returned. What was meant to save Massey Ferguson instead helped bury it. Number 2. White 9700 Rotary Combine. White Motor Company entered the 1970s with ambition but heavy debt. Through acquisitions, it had assembled a collection of agricultural brands under the White Farm Equipment banner. To compete in the next generation of harvesting, White needed a rotary combine. The result was the White 9700. This machine was a radical step. Rotary combines were the future: higher capacity, cleaner grain, fewer moving parts than traditional walkers. Developing one from scratch required massive investment. White committed to new tooling, engineering teams, and factory upgrades. The 9700 was not just a product, it was a corporate gamble. The timing could not have been worse. By the time the 9700 reached the market, the farm economy was sliding into crisis. Interest rates soared, land values fell, farmers delayed big purchases. Rotary combines were expensive, and White lacked the dealer strength and brand confidence of Deere or IH. Every unsold 9700 became dead weight. White was servicing debt from development while revenue evaporated. The company had no financial cushion. In 1980, White Motor Company filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. The 9700 did not cause White's debt, but it exposed it. The combine required sales volumes that no longer existed. White could not retreat. The factories were built, the machines engineered, the inventory produced. The rotary combine that was supposed to secure White's future became a financial anchor. Eventually, White Farm Equipment was broken apart and sold. The 9700 lives on only in collector circles, remembered not as a bad machine, but as one built at exactly the wrong moment in history. Number 3. Allis-Chalmers 8030 Tractor. By the late 1970s, Allis-Chalmers was fighting for relevance. Competitors had more modern cabs, better transmissions, and stronger dealer networks. To survive, Allis needed a bold leap forward. The result was the 8000 series tractors, led by the massive 8030. The 8030 was a technological showcase. It introduced modern styling, updated ergonomics, and serious horsepower. It was meant to signal that Allis-Chalmers was still a major force in row crop farming. But the cost of building it was staggering. New drivetrains, new cabs, and reworked factories required capital the company could barely afford. Allis launched the 8030 just as the farm economy began to collapse. Sales volumes fell far below projections. Farmers delayed upgrades. Dealers hesitated to stock high-priced tractors from a brand whose future seemed uncertain. Every 8030 that did not sell represented sunk development cost with no return. Allis-Chalmers was already weakened by competition and thin margins. The 8000 series multiplied its risk. Instead of generating profit, the flagship tractor drained resources. By 1987, Allis-Chalmers filed for bankruptcy. Its agricultural division was sold off and eventually became AGCO. The 8030 remains respected today. It was powerful, advanced, and well-engineered. But it required a healthy industry and deep pockets to support. Allis-Chalmers had neither. Number 4. International Harvester Electriel, 1954. In 1954, International Harvester introduced one of the most unusual farm machines ever sold, the Electriel. The Electriel was a gasoline-powered generator mounted on a wheeled frame. It was designed to provide electric power for implements, effectively replacing mechanical PTO shafts with motors. In theory, it was revolutionary. In practice, it was expensive, complex, and incompatible with how farmers actually worked. International Harvester invested heavily in development, marketing, and production. The Electriel required specialized attachments, wiring, and motors. Farmers would have to change how they used equipment entirely. They didn't. Sales were dismal. The Electriel was heavy, inefficient, and offered little advantage over existing PTO systems. Support costs were high. Dealers struggled to explain it. Most units sat unsold. I could absorb the loss in the 1950s. But the Electriel became symbolic of a deeper problem. Over the next 2 decades, the company pursued multiple ambitious product programs while carrying heavy labor and pension costs. By the late 1970s, IH was financially fragile. The Electriel itself did not bankrupt IH, but it represents a pattern of expensive, misaligned innovation that eroded margins and confidence. When the 1980s farm crisis hit, IH had no resilience left. After massive losses and a devastating strike, the company sold off divisions and effectively ceased to exist as a unified manufacturer. The Electriel stands as a warning. Innovation without market alignment is not progress, it is debt. Number 5. Avery 3672 Steam Traction Engine. At the dawn of the 20th century, steam still ruled heavy farm power. The Avery company believed that bigger meant better, and nothing proved that philosophy more clearly than the Avery 3672. This massive steam traction engine was designed for the largest wheat fields and industrial-scale plowing. It was a mechanical monster, capable of pulling enormous plows and breaking virgin prairie soil that horses could never handle. But building machines of this size came at a brutal cost. Each Avery 3672 required vast quantities of steel, precision boiler work, and specialized labor. Production was slow and expensive. Transporting these giants to customers was itself a logistical nightmare. Only the wealthiest farmers and contractors could even consider buying one, and the market for such machines was always limited. As internal combustion tractors emerged after World War I, the writing was on the wall for steam. Lighter, cheaper oil tractors could be built faster and sold to ordinary farmers. Avery, however, had already sunk enormous capital into its giant steam program, and the factories needed to build them. Sales collapsed, inventory piled up. The company found itself with machinery that was obsolete almost overnight. Avery tried to pivot to gasoline tractors, but the transition was slow and costly. The financial strain created by years of overinvestment in massive steam engines left the company weak. By the early 1920s, Avery entered bankruptcy and reorganization. It never regained its former strength and eventually disappeared as an independent manufacturer. The 3672 was not a bad machine. It did exactly what it was designed to do, but it was built for a world that vanished. Avery's belief in gigantism became its undoing. Number 6. Empire Model 90 Tractor. After World War II, American manufacturers believed the world was ready for mechanization. Europe, Asia, and developing nations would rebuild using tractors instead of animals. The Empire Tractor Corporation saw opportunity in export markets and designed large rugged machines for overseas use. The Model 90 was its flagship. Empire built these tractors in volume, expecting massive foreign orders under post-war recovery programs. The Model 90 was heavy, powerful, and intended for harsh conditions. To prepare, Empire expanded production and accumulated inventory, but the orders did not arrive. Political realities, currency problems, and competition from larger manufacturers reduced demand. Empire was left with warehouses full of unsold tractors and debts incurred to build them. Cash flow vanished almost overnight. Court records from 1950 show Empire's inventory being sold off by trustees. The company entered bankruptcy. The Model 90 itself was not defective. It simply targeted a market that never materialized at the scale required to sustain production. Empire's mistake was not engineering, it was assumption. The company bet its existence on global demand that existed only on paper. When reality intervened, the tractor that was meant to conquer the world became a monument to overconfidence. Number 7. Hart-Parr 3060 Oil Pull. Hart-Parr invented the tractor industry. The company even coined the word tractor. Its oil-pull engines were legendary for their kerosene-burning efficiency and massive torque. The Hart-Parr 30-60 represented the peak of this philosophy. Enormous, powerful prairie tractors built to dominate large farms. But the market was changing. By the 1920s, farmers increasingly wanted smaller, lighter, cheaper machines. Fordson proved that tractors could be mass-produced and affordable. Hart-Parr, rooted in heavy industrial designs, struggled to adapt. The 30-60 required extensive materials, heavy castings, and long production times. It was expensive to build and expensive to buy. Sales slowed. Competition intensified. Hart-Parr had invested deeply in heavy tractor production infrastructure that could not easily pivot to lightweight designs. Revenue fell while costs remained fixed. In 1929, Hart-Parr merged with Oliver, effectively ending its independence. While not a formal bankruptcy, the company's identity vanished. The oil pull legacy survived only inside a larger corporate shell. The 3060 stands as a machine built for a fading era. It was powerful, respected, and technically sound, but it represented a philosophy that the market abandoned. Hart-Parr built tractors for the past while farming moved toward the future. Number 8. Minneapolis-Moline UDLX Comfort Tractor. In 1938, Minneapolis-Moline introduced one of the strangest tractors ever sold, the UDLX Comfort Tractor. It looked more like a luxury automobile than a farm machine. It featured full bodywork, enclosed cab, headlights, windshield wiper, heater, horn, and plush seating. At a time when most farmers still rode open tractors in dust and rain, the UDLX promised comfort, style, and modernity. It was also catastrophically expensive. The comfort tractor cost nearly twice as much as a standard row crop tractor. It required custom body panels, automotive-style paint, glass, interior trim, and complex assembly. Minneapolis-Moline believed that progressive farmers would pay for comfort the same way car buyers did. They didn't. Farming in the late 1930s was still recovering from the Great Depression. Most farmers wanted affordability, not luxury. The UDLX was admired, talked about, photographed, but rarely purchased. Fewer than 150 units were ever built. Minneapolis-Moline had invested heavily in tooling, marketing, and production planning for a tractor that never found a market. Each unsold UDLX represented not just lost profit, but unrecoverable manufacturing cost. The company was already financially fragile. The comfort tractor magnified its vulnerability. Within a few years, Minneapolis-Moline was forced into mergers and restructuring. While the UDLX did not single-handedly bankrupt the company, it became a textbook example of innovation divorced from economic reality. Today, it is one of the most valuable collectible tractors in the world, proof that rarity can be born from failure. The comfort tractor was not ahead of its time. It was in the wrong time entirely. Number 9. Rumely 3060. Oil pull. The advanced Rumely company was one of the great names of early tractor history. Its oil pull engines were famous for burning low-grade fuel and producing immense torque. The Rumely 30-60 was among the largest and most powerful tractors of its era, designed to dominate the Great Wheat Plains. Rumely believed that the future belonged to massive machines. It invested heavily in large engine development, factory expansion, and production capacity for its heavy oil pull line. Then the market shifted. Farmers began demanding lighter tractors. Roads improved. Smaller farms proliferated. The Fordson proved that cheap, compact tractors could outsell giants 10-1. Rumely's business model depended on selling large, expensive machines in low volumes. When demand softened, the company's high fixed costs became fatal. Rumely carried heavy debt from expansion and research. Sales of the 30-60 slowed. Inventory grew. Creditors tightened terms. By the mid-1920s, Rumely was in deep financial trouble. In 1931, its tractor division was sold to Allis-Chalmers. The 3060 itself was legendary in strength and durability. Many worked for decades, but each one embodied a production philosophy that the market no longer supported. Rumely did not fail because its tractors were bad. It failed because it built machines for a world that no longer existed. Number 10. FMC Self-Propelled Harvester. Food Machinery Corporation, better known as FMC, was a diversified industrial giant. In the 1970s, it sought to expand aggressively into agricultural equipment, including large self-propelled harvesters for specialty crops. These machines were complex, specialized, and expensive to develop. FMC invested millions in engineering, production facilities, and dealer infrastructure. The harvesters were technically impressive, capable of mechanizing tasks previously done by hand in vegetable and fruit operations. But the market was narrower than expected. Unlike tractors, these harvesters served highly specific crops and regions. Sales volumes never matched projections. Support costs were high. Each machine required extensive service and customization. Profit margins evaporated. As the agricultural economy softened, FMC found itself carrying losses in a division that could not scale. The harvester program drained capital without delivering strategic return. Eventually, FMC exited the farm machinery sector, selling off the division. The self-propelled harvesters were not failures in engineering. They were victims of economic reality. FMC learned that building brilliant machines means nothing if the market is too small to sustain them. So that's it for today. If you like this video, then please hit the like and subscribe button for more videos. Thanks for watching.